In 2009, the Immigrant Council looked very closely at the areas of racism and xenophobia and discrimination as was being experienced by migrant communities in Ireland. And one of the responses we came up with at the time was really to encourage people to come forward and report those incidents to an organisation such as ourselves. Being in the position that we are, we're a safe middle ground that people can come confidentially and report these incidents to us and look for advice and information on how to respond to it, but also look for support. So it's not just that I'm telling you this happened, it's that we can advise people how to go through the process of trying to deal with the situation they're experiencing. Initially, when we launched the service, we expected really to be inundated with calls and with people coming to us because we had known through our long experience of working with people from a migrant background that these things were happening to people on a daily basis. But what we discovered really quickly was that that wasn't transferring across. So when we launched our service, we expected a huge amount of calls and we got perhaps one or two a month. And we were really surprised by this initially. And we had to analyse it and look into how to respond to that, or what was actually happening. When we delved a bit deeper and we decided to do a lot of outreach and go out into communities and talk to local groups and approach people as opposed to waiting in the office for them to approach us, what we discovered really quickly was that people are extremely reluctant to report incidents of racism, xenophobia, discrimination. And this initially struck us as quite surprising, but when you analyse it, quite understandable. There are various reasons why people didn't want to report things. First of all, people didn't know where to go. They had no idea, there was no appropriate structure for them to feed into where they could get advice and information about it. The tendency prior to that, especially from a state perspective, had been really to ignore the issue and really to say it's not a problem. So people didn't know where to go, first of all. Second of all, people didn't want to be seen as rocking the boat. They didn't want to be seen as causing trouble or complaining or being perceived in a negative light. Thirdly, people also didn't want to be seen as potentially bringing negative attention upon themselves, even though in these circumstances they're the victim of a crime or they're the victim of maltreatment or negativity. I was very struck by a case where we had a gentleman who's a shop owner. He's originally from an African country and a shop owner in Dublin who was receiving daily abuse at the hands of people in his community, ranging from younger kids to adults in the community, continually abusing him, graffiti on his shop, all these kind of things. We had lined him up with his local community relations Garda to report the incident and to get appropriate advice and support. But he was extremely reluctant to do so because he had a citizenship application in at the time and didn't want it to be seen as creating any negativity, didn't want his name to appear on the Pulse system, even though he was the victim of crime in this circumstance. So it's a real example of how reluctant people were to come forward. And thankfully, over the couple of years of building people's confidence and working with people continuously and doing very public campaigns to encourage people to come forward, we've gone from a situation of having one report a month to having one report a day, really. And we're very happy and very proud to be able to provide that support for people around what is really a very difficult area. Any of us can imagine if you're being targeted in your home on a daily basis and you're having to deal with it, the fear of being targeted in your community, as some of the people that come to us are, that's a real source of stress. And again, it's a real barrier to people feeling part of the community, feeling part of Ireland, being able to progress in their lives and feel confident in themselves. So we really take it as a very serious area of our work going forward.